Most people believe that intelligence is measured by how much someone speaks, how many friends they have, or how visible they are in society. But true intelligence often moves in the opposite direction. The smartest individuals eventually discover a truth that most people never notice. Constant presence reduces your value. The more available you become, the more predictable you appear. Human nature has a strange tendency to take what is always available for granted. This is why many highly intelligent people reach a point where they suddenly disappear from everyone's life, not because they are weak, depressed, or antisocial, but because they have learned that absence can achieve what endless presence never could. Think carefully about the people who seem to command the most respect. They rarely explain every move they make. They do not respond instantly to every message. They are not involved in every argument, every gathering, or every unnecessary conversation. Their distance creates curiosity. Their silence creates mystery. Their absence forces people to think about them instead of ignoring them. This is not an accident. It is the result of understanding one of the oldest principles of power. What cannot be easily reached becomes more valuable. Most people spend their lives chasing attention. They believe that being noticed is the same as being respected. But attention is temporary. Respect is earned through discipline, restraint, and control. Intelligent individuals eventually realize that constantly seeking approval places their emotional state in the hands of others. The moment your happiness depends on likes, compliments, invitations, or recognition, you surrender control over your own life. That is a dangerous position to occupy, so they begin to withdraw. They reduce meaningless conversations. They stop explaining themselves to people determined to misunderstand them. They no longer feel obligated to attend every event or respond to every opinion. At first, people become confused. They ask why this person has become distant. Some even assume arrogance. Others invent stories because human beings fear what they cannot easily explain. Yet the intelligent person understands something important. People's interpretations are outside your control. Protecting your peace is not selfish. It is necessary. Disappearing also creates something far more valuable than peace. It creates perspective. When you remain surrounded by noise every day, your thinking slowly begins to resemble everyone else's. Opinions spread like viruses. Fear becomes contagious. Desires become borrowed. Without realizing it, people begin living according to expectations that were never truly their own. Distance breaks this invisible influence. Solitude allows a person to hear their own thoughts instead of constantly absorbing the thoughts of others. History repeatedly shows that periods of isolation often precede periods of greatness. The deepest ideas rarely emerge in crowded rooms. Creativity demands silence. Strategy requires uninterrupted thought. Growth needs space free from constant distraction. Intelligent people recognize this long before others do. While everyone else competes for visibility, they quietly invest in becoming more capable. They understand that improving yourself is more powerful than advertising yourself. There is another psychological advantage to disappearing that few people recognize. When you remove yourself from constant interaction, you begin to see relationships more clearly. Some people never contact you unless they need something. Others disappear the moment your attention is no longer available. A few remain loyal regardless of distance. This simple act of stepping back exposes character without requiring confrontation. Time becomes the ultimate detector of truth. The intelligent person does not disappear because they hate people. They disappear because they value their future more than temporary comfort. They understand that every hour spent pleasing everyone else is an hour stolen from building themselves. Every unnecessary conflict drains emotional energy that could have been invested in learning, creating, or planning. Instead of reacting to every distraction, they choose intentional absence. Instead of chasing every opportunity to be seen, they quietly prepare for the moments that truly matter. In the end, they realize that the strongest form of influence is not created by always being present. It is created by becoming so disciplined, so focused, and so internally secure that your absence speaks louder than your presence ever could. There comes a moment in the life of every intelligent person when they recognize an uncomfortable reality. The world rewards those who constantly seek attention, yet it rarely respects them. The pursuit of validation becomes a silent addiction. People check their phones every few minutes, wait for replies, count compliments, and measure their worth by the reactions of others. They unknowingly hand over the keys to their emotional well-being, allowing strangers, coworkers, friends, and even casual acquaintances to determine whether they feel valuable. An intelligent person eventually sees through this illusion. They realize that the need for approval is one of the greatest forms of psychological captivity. The desire to be accepted is deeply rooted in human nature. For thousands of years, belonging to a group meant survival. Rejection could mean isolation, and isolation often meant death. Although modern society has changed dramatically, the human brain still carries these ancient instincts. We continue to fear being ignored, criticized, or left out. We say yes when we want to say no. We pretend to agree with opinions we secretly reject. We tolerate disrespect simply to avoid conflict. Slowly, we begin living according to the expectations of others instead of our own principles. An intelligent person notices this pattern before most people do. They begin asking difficult questions. Why am I explaining myself to people who have already decided not to understand me? Why am I sacrificing my peace just to avoid disappointing someone? Why am I investing energy into relationships where appreciation exists only when I make myself useful? These questions mark the beginning of transformation. Once you recognize the invisible chains of validation, it becomes impossible to continue living the same way. This realization often leads to a dramatic change in behavior. The intelligent individual becomes quieter, not because confidence has disappeared, but because confidence has matured. They no longer feel compelled to announce every success, defend every decision, or respond to every criticism. They understand that arguments rarely change minds. Most people defend their beliefs not because they are correct, but because admitting they are wrong threatens their identity. Wasting energy trying to convince everyone becomes a battle with no real victory. As they withdraw from the endless pursuit of approval, something remarkable begins to happen. Their emotional stability increases. Compliments become pleasant rather than necessary. Criticism becomes information instead of an attack. Rejection loses much of its power because self-worth is no longer tied to external opinions. This shift creates a kind of freedom that many people spend their entire lives searching for but never find. Protecting energy becomes their new priority. Every conversation, every relationship, and every commitment is examined carefully. They begin asking whether an interaction creates growth or merely drains attention. They stop participating in gossip because gossip feeds insecurity rather than wisdom. They reduce unnecessary social obligations because exhaustion disguised as politeness serves no meaningful purpose. They become selective about where they invest their time, recognizing that attention is the most valuable currency they possess. Many observers misunderstand this transformation. Friends may accuse them of becoming distant. Colleagues may interpret their silence as arrogance. Family members may wonder why they no longer participate in every discussion. But these judgments reveal more about the expectations of others than the intentions of the intelligent person. Society often feels uncomfortable when someone refuses to participate in the constant exchange of validation. Independence challenges those who remain emotionally dependent. There is great strength in learning to enjoy your own company. Solitude is not the absence of connection, it is the presence of self-awareness. During quiet moments, intelligent people reconnect with ambitions that had been buried beneath obligations. They rediscover curiosity, discipline, and creativity. Without the endless noise of outside opinions, their own voice becomes clearer. Decisions become guided by purpose instead of pressure. The intelligent person ultimately understands that protecting energy is not about rejecting humanity. It is about refusing to allow every opinion, every expectation, and every demand to occupy space within the mind. They know that a focused life cannot exist without boundaries, and meaningful success cannot be built while constantly seeking permission to be yourself. By stepping away from the endless chase for validation, they reclaim the one thing that no amount of public approval can ever provide: complete ownership of their own mind. One of the greatest advantages an intelligent person possesses is not superior knowledge, remarkable talent, or extraordinary confidence. It is the ability to remain silent while everyone else feels compelled to speak. Most people believe communication is about expressing themselves, proving their intelligence, or making others notice them. But the wisest individuals understand that silence is often a far more powerful instrument than words. The moment an intelligent person begins to disappear from constant social interaction, they gain something priceless: the ability to observe without becoming the center of attention. Human beings reveal themselves far more than they realize. Every complaint exposes a hidden frustration. Every boast uncovers an insecurity. Every unnecessary argument reveals emotional weakness. Most people are so eager to talk that they rarely notice what others are quietly communicating through their behavior. They focus on appearances instead of patterns. They react to words instead of motives. An intelligent observer learns that actions repeated over time are far more trustworthy than promises spoken in a single moment. Silence creates space for perception. When you are not occupied with defending yourself, explaining your decisions, or trying to impress others, your attention naturally shifts outward. You begin noticing the subtle changes in people's tone of voice, the hesitation before they answer certain questions, the difference between what they claim to value and how they actually behave. These details may seem insignificant, yet they often reveal the true nature of a person more accurately than any direct conversation ever could. Most people unknowingly expose themselves because they underestimate the value of restraint. They believe every opinion deserves immediate expression. They interrupt conversations to demonstrate knowledge. They react emotionally to criticism without recognizing that emotional reactions provide valuable information to anyone paying attention. An intelligent person understands that revealing too much about your thoughts, fears, ambitions, or strategies gives others an unnecessary advantage. Information is a form of power, and once shared, it can never be completely reclaimed. History repeatedly demonstrates that successful strategists were often exceptional observers before they became decisive leaders. They spent more time studying situations than announcing opinions. They listened carefully before making judgments. While others rushed toward conclusions, they collected evidence. This patient approach allowed them to recognize opportunities and dangers long before everyone else became aware of them. There is another reason intelligent people choose silence. They understand that words create expectations. Every promise becomes a responsibility. Every declaration invites scrutiny. Every opinion attracts agreement from some people and opposition from others. Speaking without purpose multiplies unnecessary conflict. Silence, on the other hand, preserves flexibility. It allows a person to gather information, reconsider assumptions, and adjust plans without feeling trapped by public commitments. This does not mean intelligent people become passive. Their silence is active rather than empty. They are constantly analyzing relationships, observing group dynamics, and identifying the motivations that drive human behavior. They notice who seeks attention, who quietly works, who manipulates conversations, who exaggerates achievements, and who remains dependable regardless of recognition. Over time, these observations create an understanding of people that cannot be learned from books alone. When an intelligent person begins disappearing from everyone's daily life, many individuals become surprisingly comfortable revealing their true character. They assume the observer is no longer paying attention. Masks begin to fall, hidden rivalries emerge, false friendships weaken, selfish intentions become visible through repeated actions rather than dramatic confessions. Distance removes emotional attachment, allowing the intelligent person to evaluate people with greater objectivity instead of wishful thinking. Perhaps the greatest lesson silence teaches is emotional control. Most conflicts grow because someone feels an irresistible urge to respond immediately. A harsh comment demands another harsh comment. An insult invites retaliation. Gossip encourages defense. Yet intelligent people recognize that every unnecessary reaction places someone else in control of their emotions. By refusing to respond impulsively, they maintain authority over themselves instead of allowing circumstances to dictate their behavior. As this habit becomes stronger, their understanding of human nature deepens. They begin predicting behavior instead of merely reacting to it. They recognize recurring patterns in ambition, fear, jealousy, loyalty, and deception. They realize that people often reveal their intentions through consistency rather than dramatic moments. The quiet observer develops an advantage unavailable to those constantly seeking attention, because while others are busy speaking to be noticed, the intelligent person is learning everything that words alone could never reveal. One of the most revealing moments in life occurs when an intelligent person quietly steps away from constant interaction. They stop initiating conversations, reduce their availability, and allow silence to replace routine communication. At first, nothing seems unusual, but as days turn into weeks, something remarkable begins to unfold. People begin revealing exactly where you stand in their lives without you having to ask a single question. Distance becomes a mirror that reflects the truth of every relationship. Many relationships survive only because one person continuously carries them. One individual always sends the first message, makes the first call, plans every meeting, and keeps every conversation alive. The moment that effort disappears, the relationship collapses. This realization can be painful, but it is also liberating. Intelligent people understand that genuine connection should never depend entirely on one person's effort. Mutual respect naturally creates mutual investment. Absence also exposes hidden intentions. Some people only appear when they need advice, money, opportunities, or emotional support. They mistake kindness for endless availability. When access becomes limited, their interest quickly fades. Others begin criticizing your distance because they have lost the convenience of your presence rather than the value of your friendship. Their reactions reveal whether they appreciated you as a person or simply benefited from your accessibility. This period of withdrawal also uncovers the rare individuals who genuinely care. They check on you without expecting anything in return. They respect your space while still reminding you that they are there if you need them. They do not guilt you for becoming quieter or demand constant explanations. Instead, they trust the strength of the relationship. Intelligent people treasure these connections because loyalty is proven through consistency, not constant contact. Distant has another unexpected benefit. It removes emotional confusion. When you are deeply involved in daily interactions, emotions often cloud judgment. Excuses seem convincing, empty promises sound believable, and repeated disappointments are easier to ignore. Stepping back creates clarity. Patterns become impossible to overlook. You begin judging people by their actions over time instead of isolated moments or persuasive words. This clarity strengthens emotional independence. Intelligent people stop chasing relationships that require endless effort while giving very little in return. They accept that not everyone is meant to remain in their lives forever. Some people belong only to a particular season, teaching lessons before naturally fading away. Instead of resisting this process, they embrace it with maturity. By allowing absence to reveal character, intelligent people protect themselves from unnecessary disappointment. They no longer waste energy forcing connections that have already lost their foundation. Instead, they invest their time and attention in relationships built on trust, respect, and genuine appreciation. In doing so, they discover that true companionship does not fear distance. It survives it, grows through it, and proves its value when silence has removed every illusion. Most people fear being alone because they mistake solitude for loneliness. They believe that constant conversation, endless notifications, and crowded social lives are signs of happiness, yet intelligent people eventually discover a different truth. Solitude is not emptiness. It is a place where the mind becomes sharper, emotions become calmer, and character is forged. This is one of the main reasons they gradually disappear from everyone's life for periods of time. They understand that personal growth requires distance from constant distraction. When surrounded by noise every day, the mind has little opportunity to think deeply. Decisions become reactive rather than intentional. Goals are replaced by obligations, and dreams slowly disappear beneath endless social demands. Intelligent people recognize this danger. They intentionally create space where they can reflect, study, read, develop new skills, and examine their own weaknesses without outside influence. Solitude also strengthens self-discipline. There is no audience to impress and no applause to seek. Progress becomes private. Every hour spent learning, practicing, or improving is done for personal mastery rather than public recognition. This quiet dedication builds confidence that cannot be shaken by praise or criticism because it is rooted in genuine achievement instead of external approval. During these periods of isolation, intelligent people often confront uncomfortable truths about themselves. They identify habits that waste time, beliefs that limit growth, and fears that silently control their decisions. Instead of escaping these realities through constant entertainment or social activity, they face them directly. This process is rarely comfortable, but it creates resilience. Real strength develops when a person becomes capable of standing alone without losing direction or purpose. As they continue growing in solitude, they begin to value quality over quantity in every area of life. They seek meaningful conversations instead of endless chatter, lasting wisdom instead of temporary excitement, and purposeful action instead of constant activity. By embracing solitude as a tool for self-mastery, intelligent people transform silence into strength, making every period of withdrawal an investment in becoming wiser, more disciplined, and far more capable than they were before. When intelligent people finally return after a long period of silence, they rarely come back as the same person who disappeared. Time spent away from constant distraction changes them in ways that are not immediately visible. They have gained new knowledge, developed stronger discipline, and learned lessons that could never have been acquired while constantly seeking attention. Their transformation is quiet, yet its impact is unmistakable. They no longer need to prove their value because their actions speak with greater authority than words ever could. Most people expect success to be loud. They believe influence comes from constant visibility, endless self-promotion, and always being part of every conversation. Intelligent people understand the opposite. They know that genuine influence is built long before anyone notices it. While others spend their time competing for attention, they invest their energy in developing skills, expanding their understanding, and strengthening their character. By the time they reappear, the results of that private work are impossible to ignore. Their confidence also changes. It is no longer based on approval, popularity, or recognition. Instead, it comes from knowing they have faced solitude, uncertainty, and self-doubt without allowing those challenges to define them. This creates a calm presence that naturally attracts respect. They speak less but communicate with greater precision. They make fewer promises but keep the ones they make. They no longer react emotionally to every criticism because they understand that not every opinion deserves a response. People often become curious about this transformation. Those who once overlooked them begin paying attention. Their absence created mystery, but their return creates impact. Others wonder what changed, yet the answer is simple. Growth occurred in private. While the world was distracted by appearances, the intelligent person was focused on substance. Perhaps the greatest lesson is that disappearing was never about escaping people. It was about escaping unnecessary noise, emotional dependence, and constant distraction. By choosing temporary distance, intelligent people gain the clarity to build a life directed by purpose rather than pressure. When they finally step back into the world, they do not return seeking validation. They return with greater wisdom, stronger discipline, and a quiet confidence that earns lasting respect without demanding it.